down, down, we're going way down. Hades town, way down under the ground. And that is a fitting song for today's Bway grosses. Cause this was a bad week for Broadway, especially for Beetlejuice. So, a Strange Loop opened and performed to 76% capacity. So it's doing fine, and it's gonna be fine. It's gonna win Best Musical. It's just a fact. Aladdin dropped from 97% to 90%. Beetlejuice, and that's what's in the title and why you've clicked this video, performed to 57% capacity versus last week's 80% capacity, only grossing $875,739, selling 7,000 out of 12,000 seats. This is bad. This is a sign that Beetlejuice might close. I have to be honest. I have to be honest with you, the viewers, because that's why I'm here. I'm not going to say, oh, it's going to be fine, we'll see what happens. I'm going to tell it to you straight. We've seen this too many times. I've looked at Bway grosses for years now, and when a show has this kind of significant drop, it tends to not make it back. It's just a fact. And when you look at the selling of Beetlejuice in the next month, it looks bad. It looks very, very bad. Beetlejuice is in crisis mode. There's no other way to put it. It is on death's door, quite literally. And if it continues to get these numbers, it's closing by July. So get your tickets now, because it's gonna close soon. But personally, I think it will survive. It will then have a better month into summer. But I feel like it might close this year or early next year. I don't know why it's doing so poorly. I think that the ticket prices are too high. I think that's a major reason. I think that the producers felt they had a bigger hit on their hands than they thought, and it's very similar to Be More Chill, where Be More Chill had this huge following, this huge fan base. However, it could not sustain it in a big Broadway house. Now, unlike Be More Chill, which should have stayed off-Broadway, Beetlejuice couldn't go off-Broadway because the set and the hugeness of the show is on a Broadway stage. It can't go anywhere else but Broadway. It can't go anywhere smaller. Another thing is that the Marquee Theater is, I think, the third or fourth largest theater on Broadway. I also think that their marketing campaign and kind of coming to Broadway was honestly not the best. I felt like they had done better, so I would expect to see discounted tickets, better marketing. I think they need to be on TV shows and promote themselves maybe at the Tonys, because it's looking bad. I think they need to have a huge marketing meeting, and they need to make decisive actions, because, yeah, and I don't even know, I don't even have any ideas. If I were the producers of Beetlejuice, I would be very nervous. But I just think that they kind of did it to themselves, because, again, I think the marketing is so important for Broadway shows, especially if you're a show that relies on tourists like Beetlejuice, and we've seen tourist shows struggle in the pandemic. But with Beetlejuice, it's a show that has defied the odds. Hopefully, it can do it again. But I just gotta tell you guys, brace yourselves, because things could get very ugly. Come From Away performed to 60% capacity versus last week's 75% capacity, selling 5,000 out of 8,000 seats. My opinion is that if this show does not do better, it will close by early next year. Company had a very bad drop to 66% versus last week's 71%, selling 5,000 out of 8,000 seats. But it's doing better than most on-time shows, so it'll be fine. Dear Evan Hansen had its worst week ever, playing to 64% capacity versus last week's 80% capacity, and only selling 5,000 out of 7,000 seats. Now, this is a good comparison. Dear Evan Hansen can do bad because it doesn't cost a lot to produce on a weekly basis. Beetlejuice cannot sustain these kind of numbers. Funny Girl did 96% capacity, which was down from the 100% that it's been doing, but it's still fine. Go From the North Country, 56% capacity. Why they brought that show back, I'll never know. Hades Town, 95 versus last week's 100% capacity. Did not make $1 million, but it's been doing so well this past year, it'll be fine. Hamilton made $2 million, but went from 100% capacity to 91% capacity, only selling 9,000 out of 10,000 seats. And for a show like Hamilton, that's bad. It's gonna be fine, but it's not a good sign. Moulin Rouge, 95 versus last week's 97. So those two shows held on quite well. Mr. Saturday Night had one performance, so it only did 84%. Mrs. Doubtfire, this show will be closing this year. It's a fact. 63% capacity, 5,000 out of 8,000 seats. and it made $421,000 compared to last week's 85% capacity. I think that this show is it's not gonna last. I just have to be blunt. The trajectory, it's not gonna do well. Paradise Square is also gonna be closing soon because it did 54% this week and 61% last week. These are just flop numbers. There are shows like that. It is what it is. 6, so that's 89% capacity versus last week's 98% capacity. But still made $1 million. Still gonna be fine for all you 6 fans. And then The Music Man also made $3 million, though it went down from 99% capacity to 97% capacity. Tino, how that's still alive, I won't know. 59% capacity versus last week's 68% capacity. And Wicked had a terrible drop from 96% to 73%. Why are these numbers so bad? Well, after a huge week of people going out and being touristy, there is a drop. So that's one factor. I think another factor that some people on the message boards brought up, that's BroadwayWorld.com, is that this thing we're dealing with, things are rising, crime in New York City isn't great. Those are definitely factors, and they make sense why families might not feel safe bringing young kids to shows like Aladdin, or Beetlejuice, or The Lion King, or Hamilton, or older people. But I think that those are not the core factors. I think there are just some shows that are not selling well, but not every show is flopping. So I think that people are just getting more conservative with what they pick. Also, the vaccine requirement is no longer there, so I think that will boost business on Broadway, but I think May is historically not a great month for Broadway shows. So that's the video. Like, sub, and comment, and I'll see you next week for Bway Grosses, hopefully with better news. Peace.